Hi there, I'm Boyce Lancaster, and normally we do these at the front of the stage at the Southern Theater, the Coda conversations, but these are our Coda at home conversations. And instead of talking with a guest artist or something like that, right now I have the privilege of speaking with one of the members of ProMusica Chamber Orchestra, Stephen Goist, who is a member of the viola section. Welcome.
That's right. Thanks. Good to be with you.
Now, you're up in New York City, correct?
Yeah, I'm up in New York City, the Big
So
Apple.
you're in the midst of all of the hoo-ha that's been going on lately.
Yeah, and it's been quite the wild ride. Really bad here in the beginning, but I think we've done pretty well with getting it under control, and things are starting to seem like they might get back to normal at some point, which gives me hope. But still, it's a obviously dense population, and that presents its issues with the virus and the spread and all of that fun stuff.
And in trying to be a musician at times can be challenging. You spend a lot of time going to different places to perform. The Handel and Haydn Society has been one of them, ProMusica here in Columbus. And getting a gig live on stage right now is not going to happen. So what are you doing in the meantime as a musician to fill your time and to keep body and soul together?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it and make it sound like it's been a nice a vacation, because in the beginning it actually was really tough. It was really depressing, thinking that my livelihood had been stripped out from under me, and it was really tough. Hundreds and hundreds of calls to the unemployment office here in New York State, and hours and hours spent on hold, hours and hours getting paperwork together, and it was a really brutal process. Even worse for freelancers like myself. And finally, that all got sorted out, and I actually got to kind of breathe and relax a little bit, and that ended up being a really powerful thing to reflect on my life outside of music. And yeah, like you said, I'm often on the road, all around the country performing, and it's rare, or it had been rare up until now, to actually have an extended period of time at home. So I love cooking. I was cooking a lot, reading a lot, watching a lot of television and movies, and yeah, catching up with friends a lot, and family. I think I'm talking to my friends and family more than I ever have before, and that's been a blessing for sure.
That's been one of the themes somewhat with the members of ProMusica is they seem to be communicating even though everybody's kind of locked in and isolated. There seems to be this camaraderie that just said you just got to talk to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're absolutely a family at ProMusica, and also just the music community in general. It helps, especially with these unemployment offices in all these different states, and trying to help each other out, and supporting each other, and checking in, making sure no one's going off the rockers or anything. And yeah, we're always there for each other.
Going off the rockers. I like that. I like that. Some of us have been there most of our lives, so exactly. You have some Baroque studies that you've been getting into, and maybe this has given you a little more time to do some of these things you have a particular interest in.
I wish I could say that. I'm embarrassed to say I've barely touched any of my instruments, any of my bows. I've barely done any music stuff, which I think musicians are different. I think some people definitely have used this as an opportunity to practice and work on things. And so I certainly don't want to speak for everyone and say that we're all lazy bums like myself. I think, on the other hand, as musicians, we are really tied to our craft, and we identify so strongly with the music and with our work that sometimes it's hard to think about who we are when we're not a musician and when we're not on the road. So I find the time away from my instrument to be really valuable.
Maybe in some ways, when you pick it up, it will be like with a renewed energy and vigor.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Especially when it's with other people. I think it'll make it feel even more special once we get back performing again.
I would think it'd be difficult as a musician, especially one who has played not only in orchestras, and in chamber orchestras, but doing chamber music, that's just really an in-person conversation with each other, and this being isolated has to be difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a musician because of the community and because of my colleagues, and um, you couldn't pay me any amount of money to sit at home alone and practice and never play with another human. So I do it because of the human interaction.
Well, music for music's sake is one thing, and a lot of people will go take some lessons and get involved in that way for their own personal pleasure. But you make music not just for yourself, but for a lot of people and to be with people.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Especially in the Baroque world, most of our music, rather than sort of big symphonic projects, most of our music is more like chamber music with just a few players and conductorless. As much as I love David Dancemeyer, I also love playing without conductors, and that adds another level of communication and another level of interaction. That's I guess I've taken that for granted, and now I'm just at home, sad and alone, and and reading books and watching crime TV shows on Netflix. So.
Well, join the club.
Yeah.
I may be watching the same shows. I don't know. You were originally from Cincinnati and grew up with a family that was musical, at least your mom, who taught the Suzuki method when you were growing up.
Yeah, exactly. My dad also is a music teacher. He's retired now, but for many years he was a band and a choir teacher. And I have three brothers, and we're all professional musicians. My mom started us all really young. I think there's a home video of me maybe at 2 years old practicing posture, not with a real violin, of course, but anyway, my dad was a horn player. I don't know how my mom won that battle, but we all became string players. And I'm a violist primarily. I play little violin also, but I have two younger twin brothers. One's a cellist, one's a violinist. I have an older brother who's a conductor, but he was trained as a violinist. So we actually had a string quartet.
You had your own string quartet,
and, yeah. I know the question that's next is, did we play together? And yeah, we tried to, but we fought so much growing up that it just never worked. So I know people have these really, these really fantastical ideas that, oh, you guys should be a quartet and be professional, but we really just fought too much. There's no way we would have survived that, literally. So anyway, here we are.
This would be perfect now with people who are performing on Zoom. Maybe that's the only way you could get along.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's no physical altercations.
Exactly. You, what I thought was interesting, though, because you started out very young playing the violin, you switched to viola at a very early age. What brought that on?
Oh, thank goodness. And I've never looked back.
Violas don't get a whole lot of respect.
No, we don't. Thank you. Yes. My mom is primarily a violist, and I could remember hearing her practice for viola. And I don't know at what age I really realized that there was a big difference, but I do remember that there was a difference. And I remember that her viola always sounded so rich and dark and beautiful. And in my school, my elementary school, our whole class in third grade started. We all played violin in third grade. I had already been playing for a while, obviously, and so I was kind of a troublemaker. And guess what? My mom was our orchestra teacher, so I was getting into lots of trouble for being a class clown. Yeah, exactly. I was horrible. In fourth grade, we were allowed to switch, and we could choose if we wanted to switch to cello, viola. I don't remember if my mom encouraged me to switch. I think she knew that I needed a new challenge, but also I think I had the option. And I do remember kind of a conscious choice, like, yeah, I want to play the viola. To be like my mom, because I did look up to her, and I still do. I love my mom, and the sound, I was just so drawn to the sound. So my best friend and I at the time both switched together to viola, and actually the following year I was still causing trouble. So my mom kind of made me switch to cello. So for 2 years I played the cello. And that did keep me occupied enough in class to stay out of trouble. But anyway, then I went back to viola after that.
Back to viola. Well, it has served you well, obviously. We've been asking everybody we've spoken with as a kind of a final question, if you found anything in all of this turmoil that's going on with the virus and everything, if you found any kind of a silver lining in your time on your own, in your time kind of away from all your musician friends, is there anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, there is. And actually, it's a silver lining to being unemployed and having to figure out what to do with my time. And that is just educating myself, listening to voices, listening to the Black community, listening to the Black Lives Matter movement, and really thinking about what we can do as classical musicians to elevate this and to combat racism. And so with that, that's come lots of conversations with friends about what we can do. And of course, there's no simple answer, but I think because a lot of us have had so much time on our hands, we've really been able to tune in with each other and take a step back and look at this, look at the big picture, and think about some positive changes, hopefully, that we can strive for.
Stephen Goist, member of the viola section at ProMusica Chamber Orchestra, among other things he does in his musical life. Thank you for taking a few minutes of your time, and we look forward to seeing you back on stage at the Southern again very soon.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.